Hey, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. For this week's guitar lesson, we've got an awesome fingerstyle blues that's fairly easy to play. This is not super difficult Chet Atkins, Tommy Emmanuel fingerstyle stuff. This is where you're playing your thumb on one string at a time, and you can set the tempo because there's no jam track, so you're playing this by yourself. I'll show you how to play everything note for note. We'll break it all down, and I'll explain where all those notes come from so that you can take these ideas and concepts and start working them into your playing. So I've got this lesson split into two parts. In this video, we'll take a look at the first half. If you'd like to watch the second half and download the tablature for this and also access the on-screen tab viewer, which is interactive, you can get those things by going to ActiveMelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP336. Alright, so I realize for those of us that are pick players that when you're trying to play fingerstyle guitar, it can be very challenging. And really, if you analyze what makes it difficult, it's the thumb. Your thumb is the variable that makes it either complicated fingerstyle or something that's a little easier to do. And what we're going to be focusing on this week is a very easy blues. It's very slow. Actually, you can set the tempo because there's no jam track, but you're playing it right on the beat, one string at a time. You're not jumping around. If you try and play like Chet Atkins or some of those guys, they do this with their thumb between strings. And they throw a melody on top of that, and it becomes very complicated. And it took me a long time to figure out how to do that, and I'm still not very good at it. I still have a long way to go with that stuff. But what we're going to do this week is something that you can do. So try and follow along, even if you've tried it in the past. You can do this. So the first thing we're going to do, actually, let me talk about the song. The song's played in the key of A, and it's a blues, but it's not your traditional 12-bar blues. I threw in sort of a jazzy turnaround. I wasn't sure what to call that, but it kind of strays from the typical 1-4-5 format, just to make it interesting. It's got a little bit of the Delta blues thing, but with some jazz and more sophisticated sounding arrangement thrown in there. It's more like a Lonnie Johnson type arrangement, really. So we're playing this in the key of A. Our 1 chord would be the A, 4 chord would be the D, and your 5 chord is the E. And what's nice about that is 1 chord, if we're looking at our thumb playing the bass notes, you have the open A string, the open D string, and the open E string. That's a reason why so much blues guitar is played in the key of A or in the key of E, because of those open strings. If you don't like it in the key of A, just throw a capo on it and play it in another key. That's probably the best way to think about that. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to learn goes like this. That's the first measure. That's the 1 chord. That's our A chord. Now, to do that, we're going to start by thinking about the chord shape. I just want to give you at least where I'm going mentally. I'm thinking about this chord shape. That's your A major bar chord. That's where you're barring on the 5th fret. Now, I'm not playing that chord, but I'm picturing it. That's kind of what I'm thinking about as I play this. So I'm barring the first 3 strings here on the 5th fret, and then I play with my index finger. I play the 3rd string, and then I hammer on to the 6th fret 3rd string. And what that is, I've just played a little triad there. That's the A chord. And actually, that's just the top part of your A bar chord. So that's why I'm visualizing that bar chord. So all of this makes sense. You have to kind of connect it back to something. So after I played that, at the same time, my thumb starts right on the beat there, which would be the 5th string, the open 5th string. So it happens at the same time I do the hammer on. So that's the first thing you want to practice. Just get that down. Okay, so after that, we're going to come up with a ring finger and hit the 1 string, back to the thumb, and then your pinky comes up here to the 8th fret 2nd string. And you grab that. Now, what is that note? Well, that would be your A7. If you think of an A7 chord, I just grabbed that note. It's also in the A minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. So however you want to think about it, but that's why that note works there. Now after that, we're going to hit the thumb 2 more times. So that's the first measure, and I'm going to play it slowly. I want you to not go any further. Let's just get that first measure down. You can do this. So what I want you to play is over and over again. And you can see that thumb right on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the only other thing I should mention about that note, and you don't have to do this, it just gives it a little bit more of a bass guitar feel or sound, tone, is I take this part of my hand and I rest it on the strings back here, so it's creating more of a thump sound instead of ringing out like that. It's muting that. It's not necessary, but most fingerstyle players, at some point as you learn to do this, you'll just find yourself doing that anyway. And what you're kind of doing is you're muting those bottom 3 strings so that when you're playing those bass notes, they sound more like a bass guitar. Okay, then we go to the 4 chord. Same concept with the thumb. The only difference is we jump up and now we're playing the thumb on the 4th string, which is your D note, because now we've gone from the 1 chord to the 4 chord, the A to the D chord. Now what I'm doing on top of that is I'm playing, well actually, let's start it with this. So ring finger comes up here to the 6th fret 2nd string, and then it slides to the 7th fret 2nd string, but at the same time, my thumb goes down on the 4th string, and that's the beginning of that next measure. Now, I'm going to keep that ring finger there, and then I'm going to bar the first 3 strings again on the 5th fret, like this. Hit the thumb again, and then come down and hit the 3rd string behind that 5th fret. So practice that. Now remember, if you're a premium member, you have the tablature and you have the on-screen tab viewer. You could loop that section and just play it as many times as you want and play along with the tab. We can even slow it down and set the tempo for that to get it exact. All right, so what chord shape are we playing out of here? Well, I was thinking about the D chord, which is your 4 chord, and I was thinking about playing it like this. That's using the A chord shape out of the caged system. Now, if I were to take the top part of that D chord, it looks like that. If I take this note and walk it down 2 frets, now I've got a D7 chord. That's just something you'll have to memorize, these little triads. So that's another way to play a D7. You've got different ways to do it. So I'm just picturing that D7 chord shape, and that's all I was doing, was playing that D7. Okay, so now we come back to the 1 chord, and then I go to the 2 chord. And that's something you don't typically hear in your traditional blues. You don't hear a 2 chord, a minor 2 chord thrown in there. But you do hear it in jazz. In fact, the formula for jazz is 2-5-1. You know, with blues it's 1-4-5. Well, in most jazz songs it's a 2-5-1 thing. And so throwing in that 2 chord gives it more of a jazzy feel. And again, it's just sort of a Lonnie Johnson style. If you listen to his way of playing, it's blues, it's Delta blues in a way, but then he throws in this sophisticated kind of jazz thing and makes it very interesting. Okay, so I'm barring the first 4 strings now on the 5th fret, and I'm playing with these 2 fingers. I'm playing strings 3 and 4, but I'm also using my thumb on the 5th string. Now at the same time, I go ahead and hammer on to the 6th fret 3rd string, and then my ring finger grabs the 2nd string behind that 5th fret. And then watch this. Actually, I don't even need my ring finger there. I just need to bar. I end up doing that because I'm thinking about the B minor 7 chord, which is what we're playing. But all I'm playing out of that is string 6, 4, and 3. And then string 2. So I don't even need my ring finger there. So just bar all 6 strings on the 7th fret, play strings 6, 4, and 3, and then grab the 2nd string behind that bar with your ring finger. And then back to the A. So let's back it up from that point. We have, and then we go back to the A, and then I throw in that A7 again, just like we did the first time. There's that hammer on again from the 5th fret to the 6th fret on the 3rd string. And then pinky comes down to the 8th fret 2nd string. All right, let me back up and I'll play everything up to that point. We'll play through it slowly. Hopefully you're starting to get it and you're starting to feel it. Even if you're playing this really slow, that's okay. You don't have to try and set any tempo other than the one that you want it to be. So set it very slow in the beginning. Just try and play on the beat. That's the key to the whole thing. If your thumb strays from that, it starts to sound really weird and people will notice. But as long as you're playing on the beat, people most of the time will not notice. So don't drop the beat. All right, so from the beginning, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we go to the 4 chord, which we've already played. Same thing. Okay, so you got that part. And then to give it a variation, I came up here and went. So you've got a D7 here, and then I came up here and played a D7, which may be a voicing you're not familiar with, but you will be after this. So what I'm doing for that is I'm doing the same kind of slide technique where we start on the 9th fret this time, 2nd string, slide up to the 10th fret, 2nd string. At the same time, your thumb goes down on that open 4th string. Index finger goes down on the 8th fret, 1st string. And then watch this. My pinky, while I'm holding that down, my pinky comes up here to the 11th fret, 3rd string. So we have. The key to that is letting those notes ring out. You don't want to shortchange them. Try and let them ring out as long as you can. Right? And so that's just another triad for a D7 chord, and you can learn them all over the neck. So now you've got these 2 triads that you can use. You got one there and one up here, and they work really nice when you're playing blues, especially when you contrast them with that open, the open bass note. Okay, so after that, we're going to come back to the A chord, just like we did before. Same 2 chord, which is your B minor chord or B minor 7 chord. I think that's what I put in the tab. Now we're going to go to the 3 chord. We're going to take that up 2 frets. See how nice that sounds? So you've got your 1 chord, your 2, and your 3. And just remember that going forward, that you can play now, and when you're playing a blues, you can play your 1 chord, your minor 2 chord, which gives it kind of a jazzy feel. Come up 2 more frets, and now you're playing your 3 chord, which is also minor. So you've got this real nice little jazzy thing that you can work in, not just in blues, in anything. But your 3 chord in this case is a C sharp minor. But we're borrowing the same thing that we did over the 7th fret. We're just going up to the 9th fret and playing that. Now this is where the song takes kind of a twist, or at least getting out of the normal realm, but I'll explain it and it'll make sense. So I come down here to this F sharp 7, right? Yeah, it's an F sharp 7 played right here. And the way that I'm playing that is these 3 fingers, this is the easy way to visualize it or think about playing this chord. They're playing the C chord shape. So think of your C chord down in 1st position. If you were to play them here where your ring finger is up on the 9th fret, 5th string, put those fingers there and then put your pinky down on the 9th fret, 3rd string. And you play those middle 4 strings. And that would be your F sharp 7. Now why is an F sharp 7 in there? Well, your F sharp chord would be your 6th chord. If we're looking at the number system, you've got 1 chord now, your 2, your 3. We're playing our 4 chord. We've got our 5 in here. And then your 6th chord would be minor, typically. But you can make that 6th chord major. And that's what I've done here. I've made it an F sharp 7, which is a major chord. So instead of playing that F sharp minor, we're playing the F sharp 7. We made that major. The other way you can think about that is that F sharp 7 chord is the 5 chord of the chord that we're about to go to, which is your B minor 7. So F sharp 7 is the 5 chord of the B minor 7. And what that does is it creates a tension and then release. You can hear it. Tension, release. So that's what's going on with that. All right, so after we play that, we're going to come down to that F sharp 7. I showed you how to play it with your left hand. And then with the right hand, we're going to put our thumb on the 5th string, our ring finger on the 2nd string. And we're going to play strings 2 and 5 together, and then middle finger on the 3rd string. And then thumb back on the 5th string. So just like that. Okay, let me back up. Actually, let me back up from the beginning and play us up to that point, just because we've covered a lot of ground. A lot of this is repetition, so that's the nice thing about this. Once you learn it once, you're just going to repurpose a lot of it. From the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. right? There's that F sharp 7. And then the song goes back to the B minor 7, or the 2 chord. But instead of me playing it here, I came down and played it here. It just gave it a little different sound, and I think it's good for you to learn your minor chords in different positions anyway. So what we're doing to play that is we're barring all 6 strings on the 2nd fret, middle finger is on the 3rd fret 2nd string, ring finger is on the 4th fret 4th string. And we're going to play strings 5 and 2 at the same time to start it. Then string 3, back to 5. And then your pinky comes down on the 5th fret 1st string. So all together you have. Keep the thumb going on that 5th string. And then we go to the 5 chord, which is your E chord. Now I'm playing an E7 chord right here. It's the same thing we did for that F sharp 7, same fingering, just playing it here now. So ring finger is on the 7th fret, string 5. So to play that I went. So it's the bass note first, which is your open E string, and then index finger goes down on the 4th string, and then we're going to play strings 2 and 6 at the same time. Middle finger goes down on the 3rd string, thumb, 2nd string, thumb. All right, so all together, and then we go back to the 1 chord. And I just played that triad there where I bar the first 2 strings on the 5th fret, middle finger on the 6th fret 3rd string. You play that first, and then your thumb goes down on the 5th string to start the next measure. Okay, so you have. Right? Then there's the turnaround, which is a classic Robert Johnson style turnaround. And all I'm doing for that, after we play that A chord, is I'm coming up to this position. So I've got my middle finger, my ring finger on the 9th fret, strings 3 and 1. My index finger is on the 8th fret, string 2. And what is that? That's another 7 chord. That would be your A7 chord. Remember, we're playing over the A chord now. So that would be your 7 chord triad. It's the same as your D7 that you probably learned down in first position. You probably know that one. If you were to slide it up here, but put the bass note, the A bass note, you've got an A7. And now you know 3 dominant 7 chord triads on the top 3 strings. Okay, so you have, we're gonna walk that down. And what's nice about this, and you've heard this in this blues turnaround often, is it's just a walk down. All the way back down to your 1 chord. But I threw in that little Robert Johnson thing. I think that's where I heard that. So pinky comes up here to the 9th fret 1st string and grabs that and then comes off. And then we go back to your A chord, that A triad. Last part is the final 5 chord, which, and that's how I'm doing it. It's that same E7 chord there. My ring finger is going to play the 2nd string. My middle finger is going to play the 3rd string. See how you got to time it right to get the bass note there. Now, if you have the tablature, that'd probably be the easiest way to follow along with that. But here it is slowly. So look at the thumb right on the beat. And then we go into the second half. Now the second half has some other variations and some other ideas. But we're going to save that for premium members. So if you're a premium member, you can join us for part 2. You can also have access to the tablature and the entire back catalog of lessons, which is almost 10 years worth now. So lots of learning material. All right, I'm going to back up and play through this first half one more time, and then we'll see you in part 2. So here we go from the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4.